the bipolar would just kind of like be an animal like that would attack me whenever it wanted to, and it was 2 or 3 times a week, and it would just come out of nowhere, and then I'd be cussing at the top of my lungs or telling people I hate them, my loved ones, saying these things that I didn't want to say, and I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to say this, but it's all coming out, and it was just terrible. So I'm taking the medicine, and I'm correctly diagnosed, but I'm still not really feeling any better. I'm not free from this bipolar. Craig had gone to junior high with me and high school with me, and it seemed like on a regular basis he would come to me and want to fight me. Well, he was a big black guy, about twice my size. 20 years later, here's Craig in his suit selling suits, and he looks kind of the same, but he sounds completely different. And I said, what is different? So there's something different about you, Craig. You look the same, but you're nice to me. And now he's a minister. So he's, I really didn't know much about God at all, except for that he was far, far away. All I knew was that much. And I mean, I had no type of a relationship with him. I didn't know I could really have one. So he was telling me that I could, and he invited me to come to lunch with him one day, and we had lunch, and he was talking to me, and I said, Craig, there's some things you said to me in high school that I still remember that hurt really bad. I mean, this is what I was going through. I had bipolar and felt like I was crazy, and everybody thought I was crazy, and you still were saying these things to me and want to fight me. Well, he apologized right then. Well, Craig's wearing this suit in the middle of this fast food restaurant, stands up, gives me a hug, and tells me that he was sorry and please forgive him. I'd never hugged a guy before, much less in the middle of a restaurant, and it felt like I had some peace about that. And then we sat back down, and he said, I told him, that I'd been dealing with bipolar ever since then, and he said, you know what, Jesus didn't die on the cross for you to be saved and just to go to heaven. He also died on the cross for your deliverance. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, we're having a deliverance service at my church. You should come. And I said, I don't know. But he wouldn't give up. He kept saying, well, if God made this whole earth and made us, and he sent his son to die for us on the cross, surely he can heal you or deliver you. Don't you agree? And I said, okay, yeah, I do. He said, well, come, it's on this night. I'll save you a place behind me. And this is where it is. And so I said, okay, I went there. And I left Cleveland and drove all the way to Athens, went down this gravel road, and then there was this metal building, nothing else around, and the parking lot was full of cars. I got there and I could hear the people singing from outside, and they were already having their service. So I just walked on in the door. It was the weirdest thing because nobody was at the door, but when I went through the door, I felt like I walked through something. I didn't know what it was. But now I know it was the Holy Spirit actually there that I walked through that was greeting me. And then the minister came out and he said, well, if anybody wants to come up to the altar and pray, just come on up. And I knew that was the only reason I was there. So I just went on up there and got on my knees. I didn't know how to stand up and raise my hands like everybody else was doing. I just got on my knees, and I really didn't know what to say either. And they were singing a song that says, just tell Jesus how much you love him. That was what it kept saying over and over again. So I was singing along with that. But I had my eyes closed, and I saw something while I had my eyes closed. It was a screen that came down, and on the screen, God was showing me all these different miracles that he did in my life. For instance, my son was born 7 weeks early, and he was in an incubator, and he was in the NICU, which is an emergency room basically for babies. And I remember how scared I was, but God brought him through that and healed him, and now he's strong and healthy. I saw my grandmother that was a very healthy woman, but then she had gotten brain cancer at the very end of her life. And it was a sad thing, but I could see my grandmother standing in this golden field of grain kind of thing, blue sky, wind blowing, and it was like, she's okay, she's in heaven now. And I remember I saw another thing where I had jumped out of the car at one time because I thought that my dad was going to take me to the hospital again, and I didn't want to go back. And I jumped out of the car while he was driving, and it was after midnight in this neighborhood, and I remember rolling into these people's front yard, and the street lights were the only thing giving us light. And I remember looking up at my dad, and just the look on his face was just, you know, are you okay? I mean, this is my only son, are you okay? You know, for a long time I thought my dad didn't love me, which is the farthest from the truth. But that reminded me right there of one way how my dad loves me. And he took care of me. And I just started to weep because I never really thought about these things that God had done for me. I'd felt this warmth that had come over my body, and I realized it was covering me. And I knew that I didn't just do those two, I didn't make that warmth come over myself, and I didn't just cause that whole movie basically of different miracles in my life to happen before me like that. I knew it had to be God. So I came and sat down at my seat, and there was a man just sitting beside me, and I just said to him, all these things just happened, and this is why I'm here, to get healed. Is somebody supposed to touch me, or somebody supposed to whisper in my ear for me to be healed? What's supposed to happen? And he had this huge Bible, and it said, by his stripes you were healed. Jesus took stripes on his back for my healing. And he said, do you believe that? And I said, I do believe it. He said, then you're healed, go and walk in that. And when he said that to me, it felt like we were just the only two people in the room. It felt like it was quiet, although everybody was still praising and singing to God. And I felt like I was kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like my chest felt pumped up, and I felt like I was about 6 inches taller. And it was just the greatest feeling. And he said, go and walk in that healing. And so ever since July of 2004, I've been walking in that healing. And something told me at the time, don't quit those medicines. That's what I'd always want to do, is to get healed of being off the medicine. But he said, don't get off the medicine. And what God had done that day was he made that medicine start working. I take the same dosage that I've taken for 20 years, and where I was being attacked, you know, every other day. Ever since that day, I've never had those attacks. God healed me, and he can heal you or deliver you from whatever it is that you're going through.
How great the love of Jesus Christ. Upon the cross of Calvary, the blood was shed that pardons me. No longer